Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our November webinar, Self-Advocacy Series Part 1, Motion to Continue. We still have a few people entering our webinar, so we're going to give it just one more minute to let people get in and get settled, and then we will begin. All right, I think we're going to go ahead and get started now. So thank you for attending our webinar today. My name is Robin Coker. I'm the Director of Communications at Disability Rights Florida. I'm a white woman with blonde hair, wearing glasses, and a pink-colored shirt. On the screen, we have PowerPoint slides that are white, orange, red, and purple. Our speaker for today's webinar is Caitlin Cliven, an attorney and Disability Rights Florida's Director of Community and Health Services. First, we'd like to review the accessibility features of this webinar. So the webinar will have closed captions and American Sign Language. Closed captions are available at the bottom of your screen by using the button that says CC. In the chat, there will be a link to view external captions. You can click that link to have your caption appear in a separate window on your computer. We have two wonderful American Sign Language interpreters today. They are spotlighted on your screen and should be visible at all times. If you cannot see them, make sure your participants setting shows all video participants. If you have questions during the webinar, please submit them in the Q&A. The Q&A button is at the bottom of your screen, and you can also send them to the email webinar@disabilityrightsflorida.org. Lastly, this webinar will be recorded and posted on our website and YouTube channel for later viewing. Now that we have the housekeeping items complete, I'd like to pass things along to our speaker, Caitlin, who will begin by providing a brief overview of Disability Rights Florida and the agenda for today's webinar. Go ahead, Caitlin.
Hi, excuse me. I'm Caitlin Cliven. Thank you so much, Robin. And as Robin said, I'm the Director of our Community and Healthcare Services team. Looking forward to providing some information today. So first, Disability Rights Florida is the protection advocacy network for Florida. There's one of us in every state and every territory. We have funding, responsibility, and authority under 9 federal programs and are in order to protect the rights of people with disabilities in Florida. We're a nonprofit corporation and been incorporated as a nonprofit since 1987. And we are statewide with offices in Tallahassee, Tampa, Gainesville, and Fort Lauderdale. So our mission of our organization is to advocate, educate, investigate, and litigate to protect and advance the rights, dignity, equal opportunities, self-determination, and choices for all people with disabilities. So today we are talking strictly about motions for continuance in the context of a fair hearing. You might be doing a fair hearing for Medicaid or other public benefits. So we're going to talk first about some vocabulary that is going to be useful, just basically what is a continuance, what is it for, and then walk through requesting one from both the Office of Fair Hearings and, oh, my slides just jumped, excuse me. The process of requesting one through the Office of Fair Hearing and the process of requesting a continuance through the Office of Appeal Hearings. So first, the words to know. The petitioner is the person who is requesting an appeal. It's the person who requested some sort of services or benefits and that those services were either reduced or denied. So that person seeking services is the petitioner. And the respondent is going to be whoever you are petitioning against. So it's going to be the agency or the organization, whoever denied the benefits, denied the services, or reduced the services. So in the context of what we're talking about today, we're usually talking about APD, Agency for Persons with Disabilities, or AHCA, the Agency for Healthcare Administration. The next one is hearing officer. The hearing officer is like a judge. They are the judge of your case and your hearing. And then a conferral statement is something that is important for motions for continuance, and you need to include one when you're asking for a continuance. A conferral statement is just basically a statement that says that you're the petitioner, you contacted the respondent, you asked, if they're okay with you requesting a continuance, and you put whatever their response is in that statement. So you're going to say, I emailed or I called the respondent's representative, and they do not object to the continuance, or they do object to the continuance, however it is that they have responded to your question. Okay. So a continuance, like the name explains, the continuance is what a hearing officer or the judge can grant to delay the proceedings in your case. So generally, you're going to request a continuance on a final hearing. And so the people involved with the case, the petitioner or the respondent, might want to have a continuance. And there's several reasons you might want one. First of which being that you need more time to prepare. You need more time to gather your documents or talk to your witnesses. So you want to have that hearing at a later date. So it's very important to read your hearing notices and any mail that you get from the agency while you're going through the process of a fair hearing, because those hearing notices are going to contain all the deadlines and timeframes. I'm sorry, I don't know why my slides are skipping without me clicking buttons, but I'm going to just go back. So the hearing notice will outline any deadlines, any timeframes for motions for continuance, but also for things like when are your hearings, and when do you need to send your evidence in. For the Office of Fair Hearings, the request for continuance must be asked for at least 5 days prior to the hearing date. So whatever hearing you're trying to continue, you have to send this request at least 5 days before that, unless there's some sort of an emergency. We're talking hurricanes, somebody's hospitalized, something like that. If there's some sort of emergency where you couldn't have known this was going to happen 5 days in advance, you can still make that request. And then for the Office of Appeal hearings, you can request the continuance at any time up until the hearing is scheduled without having to, talk about any sort of emergency or exceptional situations. Okay, so the Office of Fair Hearings is the office you're going to be dealing with if your respondent is AHCA, is the Agency for Healthcare Administration. And the Office of Fair Hearings has hearing officers who hear cases about Medicaid fee-for-service and Medicaid managed care recipients. The Office of Appeal Hearings is part of Department of Children and Families, and those hearings are typically going to be for services through Agency for Persons with Disabilities and sometimes other public benefits that DCF administers. The Office of Appeal Hearings through DCF employs their hearing officers, like I said, for matters relating to APD or DCF's decisions. Those things can be things like food stamps or other public benefits that DCF is the one responsible for deciding. Okay, and so on this slide, we have listed the Office of Fair Hearings contact information. So this is the contact information for when your hearing is with AHCA. And this is where you're going to send your motion for continuance and anything else that you're trying to send in. So that'd be, your evidence or any other communications you need to have. I'll read it out, but the slides are also going to be available in this hearing. This webinar is being recorded, so you'll be able to get this information later as well. But the information on this slide is the Agency for Healthcare Administration, Office of Fair Hearings, 2727 Mahan Drive, MS number 11, Tallahassee, Florida 32308. Their phone number is 850-412-3649. Their fax number is 850-487-1423. Their email address is Office of Fair Hearings at AHCA.myflorida.com. And their website is flmedicaidmanagedcare.com/home/Medicaid Fair Hearing. And again, I'm reading this out, but this information will be available in writing on our website. Okay, and so the contact information for the Office of Appeal hearings, this is for your APD hearings, your DCF hearings, is Department of Children and Families, Office of Appeal Hearings, 1317 Winewood Boulevard, Building 5, Room 255, Tallahassee, Florida, 32399. The phone number is 850-488-1429. The fax number is 850-487-0662. The email address is appeal.hearings@myflfamilies.com. And the website is myflfamilies.com/about-us/office-inspector-general/appeal-hearings. I know that's a lot, but like I said, it'll be available in writing as well. Those contact information are very important. You have to send it there or they will not receive it. So the next thing we have are a couple of templates of motions that you could use. And these templates will also be available on our website. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what's in the template. You don't have to use this. It can simply be an email, a letter, but you can use this format if you like. And I'll talk about we've highlighted the places in the templates where you're going to want to plug in your own information. So here on this template up in the upper left, it has 4 X's that are highlighted above petitioner. So that's where you're going to put in the name of the petitioner, whoever it is that is seeking benefits. On the right on the top, you have AHCA case number 22. Well, it says right here 22-FH and then has 4 X's. So you'll find your AHCA case number on those notices that you're going to receive from AHCA. And then plan ID, that number is also going to be on those notices. At the top, about halfway down the page, it's highlighted petitioner's unopposed motion for continuance. So that's going to, those need to be adjusted based on how your conferral goes with your opposing counsel. So if you call the attorney for AHCA or APD and they say, no, I do not have any opposition to continuing, you can file this as petitioner's unopposed motion. Now, if they say, no, we don't agree with the continuance, we oppose that, then you have to change that to say petitioner's opposed motion for continuance. So you just want to make sure that's accurate. Then the text, the body of the motion says comes now petitioner XX. So in that, with those 2 X's, you're going to want to put in the petitioner's name, the person seeking services. You're going to want to plug in the date of the hearing. So you're asking for a certain hearing to be continued. You want to make sure you tell the Office of Fair Hearings which hearing you're wanting continued, because sometimes there are more than one scheduled. So in there, you're putting in the date and time of the hearing. And then the next statement is you're seeking a continuance in this matter because, and this is where you explain the reason you're seeking a continuance. It does not have to be super long and detailed. You could just simply say, because my witnesses are not available on that day, or because I need time to hire an attorney, or I need time to gather more documents. The next statement is your conferral statement. So that's where you say, I've contacted them. I contacted them by phone, by email, and they responded that they either are not opposed to this continuance. So this template, like you can tell at the very top, it says State of Florida Agency for Healthcare Administration. So that helps you know which template is for which type of hearing. So our next template is very similar. In this one at the top, you'll see it's for Department of Children and Families. So that's going to be your APD hearings and other DCF matters. Again, there's a spot at the top left to put in the name of the petitioner. On the top right, there's an appeal number that you're going to want to plug in. And again, that's going to come, that number you'll be able to find on the notices you've received. Again, you need to plug in the date and time of the hearing that you're requesting in case there's more than one scheduled. Petitioner XX, so you're going to plug in the name of the petitioner, the person seeking benefits there. And then again, in the body, in the text of the motion itself, you're plugging in the date and time of the hearing. You're next saying why you're seeking a continuance, whatever reason it is. And then you have your conferral statement again, explaining, what the opposing counsel said about their position on your request for a continuance. And so if you have completed your motion for continuance, you've sent it in time, and if you don't hear anything back from your hearing officer, you still need to go to that hearing. And when you go there, you can explain, look, I did file a motion for continuance, ask them to look for it. They can rule on it then and there and say, okay, we're gonna, move this out. But if you don't show up, then they can just dismiss your case over. And you may have to start from the beginning by reapplying for your benefits. So if you have requested a continuance and you have not gotten something back saying, yes, your continuance is granted, then you need to still show up to that hearing, and be prepared to do your best. And then okay, so that's all I have prepared today, but we have plenty of time for questions if individuals have questions, and you can always contact us anytime, and reach out. Or our website has a lot of information. This will be on the website. These templates will be on the website. Our intake department provides a lot of good information, and if you need further assistance, they may pass that along to one of our teams. And I will tell you, Robin, would you like to explain this, or would you like me to?
Explain the QR code. Are you talking about that?
Yes.
Yes, I can do that. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Thank you so much, Caitlin. We appreciate it. Before we begin asking questions, we do want to bring to your attention the QR code on the screen. It will take you to a short survey asking for your opinion on the content that we presented today. We would greatly appreciate it if you could take a few minutes to give us feedback so that we can continue to improve the programs we offer. There's also a link to the survey in the chat if you prefer not to use a QR code. You can scan the QR code or click the link now and wait until after the question answer period to complete this. So don't feel like you have to do it while the questions are going on. So as Caitlin said, we do have quite a bit of time left to take your questions. We thought there might be several that people may have. As a reminder, if you have a question, please post it using the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. And also, please try to limit the personal health information about yourself that you provide so that we can maintain your privacy. So I will go in and check our Q&A. And I will start with this one. What do I do what do I do if I don't have contact information for the respondent's representative?
Okay. So if you don't know how to contact your respondent, your opposing counsel, and you're trying to get that conferral statement or talk to them for some other reason, you can contact the Office of Fair Hearings or the Office of Appeal Hearings, depending on which one you're dealing with, to ask them, who is assigned to this case. You can also look at your notices. Sometimes their name will be listed on the notice. But if you don't have the name, if no one can give you the name, if you send it to those general email addresses that I listed, on the contact info for each office, that is sufficient to give them notice of your motion or your evidence, whatever it is you're sending.
All right, thank you. All right, and next one is, do I have to agree to a continuance if the respondent is asking for one?
So no, you don't have to agree to a continuance. Just personally, my preference, in my practice is to be pretty generous with continuances. Um, unless there's, a real reason not to agree to it. If this case has been dragging on for years already and it's just out of control, or, you know, something kind of egregious, or if my client really is not okay with waiting any longer, I might oppose a continuance. But generally I try to be generous and agree to them, because next time it might be you needing the continuance. And if you give them a hard time now, they might give you a hard time later. And stuff comes up for all of us. So no, you don't have to grant it or agree to it, but especially if it's the first continuance, it's the first or second continuance, it's pretty standard to agree to it. And the hearing officer is incredibly likely to grant it, whether you agree to it or not.
All right, thank you. The next question is, how do I get started with my application?
Application for services?
Well, unfortunately, that was all of the information that was provided.
Um,
Could
maybe
could
the
could
the
the
person.
person who asked the question maybe provide us with a little bit more information, and I'll move on to the next question? How about if we try that? All right. Um, let's see. What if the agency address is listed as respondent, but not a specific person you can contact to ask about the continuance?
Right, so that's the same as if the first question, if you can't find their contact information. So you
Okay.
can reach out to the Office of Fair Hearings or the Office of Appeal Hearings, ask them which attorney is, has the attorneys are supposed to put in a notice saying, hey, I'm the attorney on this case. So if they've done that, then the Office of Appeal Hearings or the Office of Fair Hearings will be able to tell you their name. And again, if they don't have the name, if that notice hasn't been filed yet, contacting the general inbox is your way to go, and someone should be monitoring that inbox and hopefully will route it to the correct person.
All right, thank you. What if the agency address is listed? Oh, sorry, that one, I think that one we answered. Okay. What if you do not receive documents? Oh, I'm sorry, guys, my screen keeps changing as what things are added. What if you do not receive documents from the respondent agency prior to the fair hearing?
So that's a little outside of the scope of a continuance, but that might be a reason for requesting a continuance, is that you haven't received any evidence. The other thing that often happens, if you haven't received the evidence and you've been asking for it, you have a deadline to send your evidence. They have the same deadline, and if they haven't met that deadline at the hearing, you can ask for it to be continued to give you time to receive and review the evidence that they're going to submit.
All right, thank you. Um, okay, the next question is, what happens if I show up, um, and an ASL interpreter is not, available? Um, what do I do in this situation?
So I have not personally had that situation, but everyone's entitled to ADA accommodations in court settings, fair hearing, or state court, federal court. So you should have requested them ahead of time. If you show up and the accommodations are not present, then you should ask to have that hearing reset and continued to a date soon in the future, so that you can have your accommodations and make sure you're able to fully participate, and represent yourself.
Okay, thank you. Um, what if the hearing officer doesn't agree to grant the continuance?
If the hearing officer does not agree to grant the continuance,
Yes.
then you have to move forward. Your hearing date is your hearing date, and you do the best you can with what you have. And your other option is to withdraw your request for a hearing and end the process. You can choose just not to go forward. But yeah, if it's ultimately it's the hearing officer's decision. I did want to add a little bit of information that might be helpful. Is that so when going back to those conferral statements, when you're asking, has someone do they oppose or do they agree to your continuance? If you don't get any response, if no one emails you back or calls you back and you need to file that motion, you can put that in as your conferral statement. Say, I attempted to reach the respondent by email, by phone on this date. I never received any response. And that's your conferral statement.
All right, I have one more question. So if anyone else has any questions, please go ahead and add them to the Q&A, but I have one more. What should I do if something happens last minute and I don't make the call into the hearing?
Well, if you don't make it to your hearing, like I said, you run the risk that they will dismiss your case. If there was a good reason that you didn't make it to your hearing, I was in a car accident on the way to the place where I was going to have the hearing, or a call into the hearing, something totally unavoidable, I would get in touch with them as soon as possible. Is at the very first moment that you're able to either email or call them and say, hey, look, this is what happened, and see if they will forgive it and reset it. But it is possible that it will be dismissed and you will again just have to start from the beginning of the process, requesting services anew.
Okay, I have one more. Can you resubmit a request for an increase in services after the hearing with new information?
You can resubmit a request after the hearing, but you may cut off your appeal right. It's possible that your new request will cause them to dismiss the appeal. So normally what I do, and if I have new information and we're in an appeal posture, is instead of submitting a new request for services, I will send my new information, my new evidence to opposing counsel, to the hearing officer, and ask them to consider it for the hearing, and for the order for the hearing. If you've already had your hearing, that's a little bit more difficult and unlikely to be able to get that considered because your opponent doesn't have a chance to respond to it. Um, but yeah, that's a difficult posture to be in. Hopefully any additional evidence or information you could get prior to the hearing and you use it to support your arguments at hearing instead of using it to submit a new request.
Oh, all right, thank you. Another question was, can we talk to someone to help walk us through the fair hearing?
Sure. So, sometimes on my team, on the team that I work on, we provide what we call technical assistance to folks who are preparing for a fair hearing. We get an incredible number of requests to assist the fair hearing and just don't have a number of attorneys we would need to represent every single person. So we try to provide technical assistance to those that we can't provide full representation to. And you access that service by calling our intake line and doing an intake, and then your information gets sent to our team. Also, however, we recently recorded a webinar about the fair hearing process, which I believe is on our website or will be soon. So that's on our website and our resources. And it's a 1 hour presentation specifically talking about the fair hearing process.
All right, very good.
And Robin, if there's no more questions, I have a tiny correction.
Go ahead. There are no more questions right now.
Okay, I just wanted to correct a little bit of information when I read out the address for the Office of Appeal hearings, the Office of Appeal hearings, that everything was correct except the physical address. So the physical address, and we'll change it on the slide before it gets uploaded to the website and make sure it's accurate there. But just for this current purposes, the correct address for the Office of Appeal hearings is 2415 North Monroe Street, Suite 400-I, Tallahassee, Florida, 32303.
Okay, and we will correct, we have a link in the chat to these addresses as well, and we'll make sure that on our website that those addresses are corrected as well.
The links should be good and accurate.
All right, very good. Okay, I don't see any more questions coming in. So I think that, is there anything else that you need to add, Caitlin?
Nope, just thanks everyone for coming, and I hope this is helpful, and call our intake if you need us.
All right. You can also do an intake online. Just go to our website and look for the button for intakes, and you can do it there as well. So this is the end of our webinar. I want to thank you for joining us, and I hope everyone has a wonderful day. Thank you.
Bye-bye, everyone.